Hello and welcome back to Simon's Rants. I'm Simon and today I'm giving you my on second thought on Reservoir Dogs. So this is your spoiler warning. I'm going to be talking about this movie and its plot in its entirety. So if you haven't seen it yet, you should watch it and then come back and we'll talk about it then. So Reservoir Dogs is a 1992 film written and directed by Quentin Tarantino, starring Tim Roth and Harvey Keitel. In case you don't know, the plot of this movie essentially is about a jewelry heist that goes wrong. There's a cop who is infiltrated this group of 6 criminals trying to steal these jewels and then resell them. They don't know which one it is, and they spend the majority of this movie trying to figure out who it is, who set them up, and who got all of them essentially killed. So this is the first official Tarantino film. He had one small movie before this, but I don't really count that as a real movie. This is the first one that had a normal kind of budget, sort of, and had a normal release and all of those sort of things, had real actors, all of that. This is his first official movie, and there's some obvious clues here that it is the first movie because it's not quite as Tarantino-y as he later got, but it does have some staples in there. There's still a lot of that same kind of dialogue, but it's not as polished as it would become later. There's a lot of blood, but it's not as much as he normally would do later in his movies. The script isn't as concise as it normally would be in his later works. There's different pacing issues because of that as well, and there's a lot of exposition dumping at the beginning of the movie. In later films, Tarantino would often resort to a narrator to do those exposition dumps, but I guess he didn't want to do that, or didn't think of that idea, or didn't think it meshed well with this movie. But it does suffer a little bit because of that, because we have these different characters saying all of these things, describing a situation in kind of obvious ways that show two different things about this movie. And one, it's a little bit sloppy writing, but two, that sloppy writing was there ultimately because it was trying to mask a lack of budget. These characters talk about a big heist happening and all of these cops popping out of nowhere and this bloodbath ensuing from that, but the most cops we ever see in this movie are 3, and there's very little action between them, and it honestly doesn't look very believable with these cops and their uniforms. It looks like a low-budget movie at times, which is a shame to see that, but it's understandable because it probably was a low budget. I'll check. It had a budget of $1.2 million, which is very low, very, very low for this kind of movie, and you can tell that watching this movie. There's very little budget to go around. You've got the special effects budget, you've got the budget for paying the actors and the crew and all of that, and then that's pretty much it. You see the sets, there's basically none. You've got a warehouse and that's pretty much it. So it's actually surprising how much Tarantino can get done with the limited resources that he had, but it's still very obvious watching this back again, knowing what he would have done in later years as the Tarantino we now know. Going and seeing it there, we understand the limitations and we can see them pretty easily. And when the dialogue is kind of clunky, you know that Tarantino was trying to get some things across that he felt uncomfortable doing. Like, he had to explain a lot because he couldn't show as much. And Tarantino is most known for his dialogue and, well, his gory effects, but the dialogue is the thing that I think he's probably best at. That's my favorite thing about him anyway. And in Reservoir Dogs, there is a lot of good dialogue, but there's a lot of frustrating dialogue where it's like that was almost realistic, but either the directing held it back, the acting held it back, or there was just a couple of weird wordings, or just the pacing was off. So everything about this movie just feels a little out of place. It's still very good. I would still give Reservoir Dogs like a 7.5 to an 8. It's a very enjoyable movie, but it's just not up to par with what we are now used to from Tarantino. That being said, the plot is awesome. For the most part, the acting is really good, and you are fully invested in these characters and care a lot. And I know it's kind of a trick now that a lot of people do, and it's kind of more noticeable going back and watching it now, but taking Tim Roth's character, who was the cop pretending to be the criminal, and essentially eliminating him from the whodunit aspect of it by having him shot and dying was a very good tactic. It's done more now, and it's a little more predictable now, but in the early 90s, that wasn't as predictable, and if you were watching it for the first time, you might have no idea that he's involved at all. You would just write him off like Tarantino's character or Mr. Blue's character who almost essentially die off screen. One does, Tarantino's character kind of, but not really. When in reality, he is the most important character in the movie and you should be watching him closely, but you're probably more concerned with other characters like Steve Buscemi maybe, or who knows, they're all pretty guilty looking. But yeah, for the most part, I can enjoy this movie and I do enjoy this movie a lot. There are definite flaws in this movie, some are on purpose. I know that it's brought up a decent amount, but in that Mexican standoff scene, it doesn't make sense. I just rewatched it and I had to rewind and watch that part at least 5 times because I had never noticed it before and I had to look it up, and there is a lot of talk about it. You have 4 characters. One doesn't have a gun though. One is pointing a gun at one who is pointing a gun at the one who doesn't have a gun, and then the third character is pointing a gun at the one threatening the other one with a gun. So you've got 3 guns going, but 4 points. And at the end of that standoff, all 4 end up getting shot. Doesn't make sense. So I did a little bit of research, and what was supposed to happen was that Harvey Keitel's character was supposed to shoot one, turn and shoot another before getting shot, and that kind of starts to happen in the movie, but doesn't fully happen. And what had happened in the behind the scenes was that his special effect, the burst that was supposed to represent getting shot, went off too soon, and he just reacted to it and started to fall. His gun does go off a second time, but it's not really pointed in the right direction, and there's a disconnect between his gun going off and the other guy getting shot, so it doesn't look related at all. And if you're watching it, it can look very confusing because it doesn't make any sense. But apparently Tarantino thought that it was a cool little Easter egg, and so he left it in there. I don't know why, but that's Tarantino for you. I would have tried to redo that, but I don't know. You could at least say like, oh, Steve Buscemi shot him from off screen, but he didn't. He was hiding under the ramp, and besides, the shot didn't come from that direction. So I don't know why he did that, but it is there, and it's weird. And there's a few just nitpicks about this movie that are like that. They're not necessarily flaws, but they are nitpicks where it's just like, I don't enjoy that being there. Like, after having the big reveal of Tim Roth's character being the cop, you then spend, in my opinion, too much time on his backstory. You've got him learning his backstory and acting it out and trying to show off for this other cop who's wearing some really cool stuff from the 90s, and it's awkward and it's too long and it's unnecessary. Like, you spend several minutes of him learning a backstory joke to tell to these other characters, and you could tell this was something Tarantino enjoyed because it's something along the lines of what he said about how to write scripts in general, where you're supposed to understand more about what you're saying than what you're actually saying. So he tells the character, Tim Roth's character, that he needs to know everything about this situation. He needs to know what the bathroom smelled like. He needs to know what kind of soap was in the bathroom, if somebody had diarrhea in the corner. Like, that's what you need to know, even though that's not going to come up. You need to know that so you can make it real. That's all interesting, but it feels out of place in this particular movie because it doesn't really go anywhere, and you just have him telling this story to these 3 other characters. And I guess it was supposed to show a bonding moment between Tim Roth and Harvey Keitel's characters, but it took too long and didn't seem necessary, and that's a lot of the second half of this movie. It feels like the pacing is off, and it's not the Tarantino that we know now. So it could just be that he didn't have enough practice yet. It could be that he didn't know how to stretch out the story to a full runtime. It could be a lot of things. But regardless, this movie isn't the product we are now used to getting from Tarantino, where it's usually pretty seamless. It's usually pretty close to flawless. That's not this. This one is a flawed movie. And it's a very good movie, but it does have flaws, unlike, you could argue, his later movies that don't have any. So yeah, that's just what I thought, but let me know in the comments below what you guys thought. I am starting all of these Tarantino movies, but if you want me to get to anything else after I'm done with these Tarantino movies, let me know in the comments below, and I'll try to get to them as soon as possible. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.